Mediocre Hobbies Podcast, Episode 15, 3D Printing, Laser Etch, and more.
Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you the next installment of the podcast. I am joined, of course, as usual, by the gent himself, Mr.
Tom Landy. You know, I've just realised, Andy, we've just done this whole show and I haven't talked to you about Twitter. Because normally I sign off and say follow me on Twitter, but it might not exist next week with the way things are going. So
your Instagram is doing well, though. Just mention that.
It is actually, yes, it's doing really well. So
I like
I'll link that I'll link that down below. And so now everyone knows we're not going to talk about Twitter. Let's see what we do talk about. I mean, I don't want one, and then I watched your video, and now I really want to use lasers to cut wood.
Yeah, they're so much fun.
It's so good.
Yeah. It was it was an awkward video though, because it was like so outside my comfort zone as to like what technology I understood. So it's one of those videos where, and I haven't had many of these so far, but it's a video that I'm so glad it's just done. Just it's in the past. Whatever comes of it, it comes of it. But I'm finished with it.
I mean, it's great though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to cut out loads of things.
Yeah, it's mental. It definitely gives me, like, I keep thinking about what I'm going to do when we move. Like, am I going to get a 3D printer? Am I gonna have space for a table? And now I want to be able to burn wood with a laser. And I've no interest before this, but now I just can't wait to spend.
If it was a choice
quid.
either or, I would recommend a 3D printer, a resin 3D printer.
Yeah, I don't think I'm thinking either or though. I think I'm going to be stupid and do both, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I honestly don't. Like any hobbyist kind of over the age of 16, I think in like 5 to 10 years' time, every hobbyist will have a resin 3D printer in their room.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be it's going to get to that point where, people will ask you, just 3D print it. I don't have a 3D printer. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean you don't have one? Like it costs 2 packets of Tato and a can of Coke to buy one. Like, what's wrong with it?
Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think somebody is going to industrialize it? So, like, you just go down, like, what's it in America, the Kinko's or whatever the like photocopying places. Though you just get stuff printed.
Like, will that print farms and stuff like that? Yeah, sure. But like, they should exist. And the only problem is time.
Yeah,
like a resin print now, like a let's say a 32mm miniature would take, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours maybe. So you can put it in an order, fill in a tray, but then it's all like failures and stuff like that. You call the person, be like, I know you need these for tomorrow, but the print fails, I've restarted it there, so restart the timer another 3 or 4 hours. And the guy's like, oh, both aren't. I think like they're going to be super cheap, but maybe it's that whole like quality thing. Like everyone's home printers will be 4K, and then you'll get freaking go down to Costco and we use the 10K printer for your characters or whatever.
8K printers are not that. They're not that expensive though.
No,
and I don't think the quality is that big a difference between them for most of the things that we would print.
So I feel that, and hopefully the internet doesn't hate me for this, but I don't think the majority of the digital sculptures out there are good enough to utilize 8K yet, if you know what I mean. Like they're not Games Workshop sculptures. Now, some of them obviously are, but not a lot. Like I've even noticed the difference in like those like week or monthly, those bundles where you
yes.
I'm in a bunch of those, right? And Loot Studios, for instance, gives like the most ridiculously beautiful miniatures every time. Absolutely stellar. And then there's other ones which I won't name, but you're like, is that it? Is that what you're giving me this? Okay, Jesus Christ. Like, did you sculpt that with your eyes open or? Yeah,
I've seen a few Kickstarters and stuff recently where someone's now doing 3D printed stuff, and some of it is excellent. Like I bought them maybe a year ago. Someone did like a D&D Darth Vader, and so it's kind of like a Black Knight with like Darth Vader's face grill, and he stood there with like a sword and like a very traditional Darth Vader pose. And it's really good because it's like medieval, but it's very clearly Darth Vader, but not not suable, if that makes sense.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
And he came with 3 stormtroopers, I guess. One of them with sword and shield, 2 of them with crossbows, and they just have that like kind of metal helmet, but it's very clearly Stormtrooper, but it's also not Stormtrooper. Lovely, really cool, excellent models. definitely not got any detail on them. Like, in terms of if I'm stood here right now looking at my Chosen, and there's more detail just on the banner than there is in all those models.
Yeah. I also think I think we're moving away from it now. I think there's more and more of those like monthly subscription bundles is a good thing because I think people should move away from the idea that 3D printed files are free.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because like if people just go and look for the free ones and use the free ones, then there's no money going into basically the 3D printing economy to pay amazing artists to do amazing sculpts. You know what I mean? Like
it's my biggest issue with Marvel Crisis Protocol is everyone I know who plays it has people 3D print them alternate models.
Yeah.
And so this game, the game apparently is very good. I've not played it.
Yep.
But no one's using the original models, or not when you're actually in the scene. People are just using different sculpts, and it's like, well, how is this game going to exist in 5 years if no one's using the models?
Yeah, and that's always my funny argument when people do things like boycott Games Workshop and stuff, and I'm like, imagine if everybody did. Like, what do you think the result of that would be?
I know. Well, they'd probably bring back the old world, right?
Of course, yeah. And
just leave it a while and then bring it back.
No, it immediately fix everything.
So I spent it's really boring, but I spent about 2.5 hours last night watching tutorials on the burning software for yeah, it's really bad. But it's cool. Like, is it as easy to use as it looks, or is it like a
which software were you playing around on?
The one you recommended,
Lightburn.
Yes,
where you get like a free for a month and then you start paying that one. Yeah. Like when I first turned it on, it's like turning off Microsoft Office for the first time. Yeah. And you immediately just start screaming internally because you don't know what any of the buttons do. But eventually I figured it out and things became a lot easier and stuff. So by the end of me playing around with it, I was like, okay, I feel comfortable enough to do like gauges and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I didn't realize was kind of a bizarre thought. But like when you do something in a 3D printed file, for instance, you can make that as big or as small as you want, right?
Yeah, of course.
You would think that you can do the same with a burn file, right?
I would guess.
No, because the file is designed for a particular thickness. So a 3mm MDF, for instance. So you can't change the dimension up or down, just width and height.
But you can for, like, obviously maybe you can explain this to me, but I'm looking at the well, and the meat shop,
so all the
right?
joints, you would shrink those down, and the holes to push in, the wood would still be 3mm thick. The holes would have gone smaller.
What about the roof, where it's got like the imprint of tiles, but obviously they're not individual pieces? How does that work then?
That's just engraved. So you've got basically two settings: you cut or you engrave. So it was cut. The parts were cut out, but any of the designs were engraved into the wood. Interesting.
And so you have two of the meat shops because one of them didn't engrave properly?
I didn't learn. I was only messing around with one setting as goes. Like I was only messing with the laser cutting, and I didn't realize that like when you're messing around in like making a poster and you've got the different layers.
Yep.
It's the same as that. So I forgot to select the second layer, which is all the lines were meant to be engraved. So they were on the default setting for the laser, which wasn't enough to actually engrave.
Yep.
So I had to slow down the speed and increase the power on the engraving setting so it would actually burn the lines in and do that kind of bits and pieces. So it's just one of those really silly things that like, it's a mistake you only do once. And since I did it, I was like, whoops.
And did you make any modifications to either of the templates you used, or were they just straight up print?
Straight up. One was Colts 3D, and I can't remember the website where I got the well, but it was like a free file from their website to like see how good their files are, and their files are pretty good.
Yeah, I like both of them. I think they're absolutely brilliant. And I guess you can just, I mean, you probably could just edit the files that get right. So if you want to have the well on a square base, you could probably just go in and edit that.
Yeah, just decide not to cut out the base, or you could change where the cut lines are on the circle and put a square around it and make that the cut line. And yeah, sure, loads of different things you could do to make whatever you want. So I really like the idea of doing, and one of the next things I might do is order tokens. So I would say front rank fire, second rank fire, print out because like you get the cards now with the codex, right? But yes, now, like when you issue an order, it's issued to the guy you ordered it to, and then every unit within 6 inches gets it as well, kind of thing.
Yep.
So it would be better to have 6 tokens of each order, kind of, so you cast any point, like that guy has that guy has that guy, because then they can move out of range of each other and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's the kind of thing that I'm going to look into next.
And how detailed is the, like, I'm asking because, you know, I'm going to buy one at some stage. How detailed is the like, how can you, I've got a blank screen, right? And I've got the app in front of me, and let's say I'm going to edit the sign on the meat shop.
Yeah.
How small can you actually get with the machine that it's still usable? Like, does it have a particular,
like, how fine a font can it do, kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm not really even thinking font, but yeah, like how small and nuance can you make with like woodcut where it'll still be usable?
You'd be surprised, like, because like, some of the things they do with the engraving has like pictures of crazy like lions and stuff, and it's like absolutely, like, you could copy a photograph from your phone onto that Lightburn page, and it would engrave that picture like it was a picture.
Oh wow!
Like, it's insane. You can do that with your phone as well. The Bluetooth thing was the first thing I did. Was I got a screensaver of a Death Corpse of Krieg picture. It's like one guy holding another guy who's dead kind of moment, that I just engraved that onto one of the pieces of wood. It was a little too dark, so that's me just not messing with the settings properly, but like, you could still see that it was a photo printed onto this wood from a laser beam. I was like, what is this, the future?
It's mental. How long does it take to do a A4 sheet or whatever size there?
So it would probably take about 20 minutes if it was like fully full. So for instance, my gauges one, because that was cutting out all of those little circles and all my rulers, plus engraving every single piece of it, will be about 20 minutes. Because that's the thing about the laser. It's like, you can change the power, obviously, from 1 to 100. Yeah.
Okay.
But also you can make it more powerful than that by slowing down the time. So the laser is spending more time going over each piece. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. So I guess if you have your, I don't know, your bases and you've engraved them with 25 mil on top, the 25 mil on top might be done for a quarter of the time of actually cutting out the base.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm learning so much. I also know how much they cost and that Amazon have them in stock. But I'm not spending £700 while I talk to you.
What are you talking about? There's discount codes on my videos and all sorts, buddy. You'd save yourself loads of money.
Yeah, I know. Not till after I move. I'm not going to buy a thing and then assemble it and then have to move. Because she does not want the smell of burning wood in the house.
No, it's good. Set off my smoke detectors twice.
That's brilliant.
Like, it is just a laser beam cutting a hole in wood. Like, it's not a joke. It's a serious piece of, like, you get safety glasses and all to wear so you don't burn out your retina.
Wow. And at what point are you going to invite someone around and try and do the Mr. Bond?
That's what I want to do.
Die?
That's what I asked Laura to make the thumbnail.
There you go.
No. I was like, no. It's like, oh, okay.
I think that's the whole point, right?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. And it comes from a, you know, faraway place. There's no evidence it got to you, you know.
Yeah.
People just showing up in Dublin, sewn in half with lasers. Like, what happened? I couldn't say.
Blame Otar. That's the company. They're all their fault.
It's crazy. It is. It's. We talked about it briefly when you know, a few weeks ago, and I was like, okay, cool, don't care. And I was like, I could really enjoy some 3D printed things, but 3D laser etched things, but I was like, I don't really care that much. And then I watched your video, and it's like, I really, really do care. It's just like, it's genuinely something I care about. During lockdown, I got into Flames of War, and you know, in Call of Duty 1 or 2, there was a Quarantine map.
Yeah.
So I went online and I got the actual town of Quarantine from the era, and I French built, like, from, I think it was Sarissa Precision, went and ordered a bucket load of their, like, whatever, 9mm, 10mm, whatever it is, buildings, and built like a full 6x4 board with all this stuff.
Yeah, so amazing. Like, cool.
Yeah, and it's all wooden laser cut buildings, and it's like, cost me a fortune, cost me more in shipping than it did in actually getting the models or whatever, but it's it would do so much damage with this, Andy. It's ridiculous. Absolutely mental.
It is just one of those, like, I honestly spent so much time struggling to find the files to do those that don't look back game houses.
Yeah.
I struggled. I was looking for weeks trying to find them, and then I actually asked on Twitter, And then it was actually Adam Troke that came back and
Oh, really?
applied and was like, have you tried Surrosive Precision? And I was like, no. And he's like, well,
Yeah.
we do some game on this, and these are the houses that I use, and they were perfect. But it would be that whole thing of like having the files. I could have printed them out in an hour and then had them built, and it would, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I love Sarissa. I think they're phenomenal, but it is just getting the designs, and they will design stuff for you as well. If you give them, like, you tell them what you want, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Can it cut other things? Like, can you get like sheets of?
Anything.
Oh my god, Andy!
It
So
cut anything, man. I was putting it on top of I got 4 roof tiles, and I mean,
Yes,
like,
I could see
from
that.
my
Yeah,
ceiling,
yeah.
and they were engraved by the end of it. The laser cutter was cutting through roof tiles.
But you could, so you could do like perspex, or colored perspex for your army.
I haven't tested it, so I don't want to say in case I'm wrong, but I feel like you could absolutely make the perspex. I presume the perspex gauges are made of the same thing. I just don't know if
So.
the plastic would melt in perspex before it would cut or whatever. It would have warping or any of that kind of.
Well,
I don't know.
whatever the. I mean, someone must cut them out, right? I mean, I've
I
got
don't know whether
loads
they
of.
just use a saw or like a
No.
water jet saw or something, or do they use a?
No, definitely not. No, these are just people in their bedrooms as well. So like,
So it's got to be
100%.
just a little laser. God, imagine the smell of that. I'm not sure if that would be quite healthy for your lungs.
Well,
Burning plastic in your lungs.
I don't know. Could be, could be amazing, but it's so cool. I don't know. There's just something about it that I don't think I should enjoy at all. But every single time you were doing something with it, I was like, I'm not interested. And then the little print head would start moving, and all of a sudden there'd be a thing, and I'd be like, oh, actually, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
And I was, because I'd seen them, was it last week or the week before when we were talking, you'd sent me
Yeah.
pictures of the things, and I was like, this is cool. And then it starts to print out the basis one, and it starts with the big long 12-inch ruler. I was like, I know what this is. This is really interesting. Now, it's almost like I've seen the trailer and now I'm watching the movie. It was, I don't know, it was just so good. And I tell you, okay, too expensive for Monday night, but
yeah, and it is that thing. It's like,
cool.
like I say in the video, I do believe, like, I don't know whether anyone should just like, does every hobbyist need one? No, absolutely not. Like,
no, but every gaming group should have one.
I think
or
they
two.
should. Yeah, I've said that as well about things like Green Stuff World.
Yeah.
I think that like a group of people should get together and like and then they should all buy different things. Like nobody needs, like, if there's 5 people in a group, not everyone needs a cobblestone roller.
No,
One person needs a cobblestone roller, and when once every 3 years when you decide to make a batch of cobblestone base, you ask for it from that guy. And do you know what I mean? Just
I do. But I mean, I guess you could just 3D print, or not 3D print, but laser etch some cobblestones as well.
You can 3D print a roller from cobblestone as well. I've seen it done, but yes, you can just. I was thinking about doing the like laser etch a cobblestone design into. I think that'd be so cool, because then like you would take your whole A4 sheet, you would laser the whole thing with the cobblestone,
and then you would do the circles,
rings over the top of it, and just there you go, whatever size you need.
I think that's that's my main issue with 3D printers, is that I don't need another hobby, and 3D printing is a hobby in itself. Like the idea of, even just the idea of, that we all know someone. You might be that person in your friend group, but you've got like hard drives full of every movie that ever existed. But I kind of feel like that's the 3D printer, right? Whoever has that in your group is that guy, because you're like, oh, I want a wrench, or I need a nut for this, or I bought an IKEA table and there's a thing missing. I can just 3D print it, and it's there in the morning.
And
like,
if you are good enough, you can do that. Like, if you want, like,
that's the dream.
I don't know if you watch Tabletop Time at all.
I don't think so.
Tabletop Time is the Australian guys. It's Jazza, who's the main guy, who has the huge YouTube channel on just art. He's got like 6 million subscribers. He's massive.
Oh wow.
But he obviously started up Tabletop Time, which is his hobby version of it, and he got a bunch of his like local friends in who do hobby, and he's kind of stepped away from it now because he's got to really focus on his 6 to 7 million subscriber channel. So these guys should do it. But there's a guy in there, and they have their custom Space Marine chapter called the Space Bears.
Cool.
And they're like bear iconography, kind of like Space Wolves, but they've also got a lot of Native American themes, like feathers and stuff. He does a couple of videos on designing parts for the Space Bears, so like doors and all those kind of things.
Wow.
And you first of all, you're like, oh, this isn't going to be interesting. And then 5 minutes into the video, you're like, this is amazing. Like
there's actually a guy I subscribe to who does that exact thing. He kind of teaches you how to use is it Blender? Is that the 3D?
One of the million things that you can do 3D sculpting. I'm sure Blender is one of them, yeah.
Yeah, this guy, he does specifically It's Artisans of Vol is the name of the channel, but he basically he's someone who like is a hobbyist who really likes hobby, but doesn't want to just replicate what GW do. He does some really brilliant videos on how do you kind of take this app and make a sword, or how do you do cobblestone stairs, or how do you design a weapon that you don't want to spend 40 quid, or this weapon's no longer available, or you don't want to buy the new Warlord Titan box just for this one head. How do you design one that's similar? And he's very clear that he's not doing, he's not copying. He's matching the design so it fits, but he's not replicating.
Yeah. I mean, I know that exact thing. Like I really want, and I've wanted them for the last, I don't know, ever since I got really big into Guard, but they've already gone.
Yep.
Like, remember on Forge World, there used to be all of these weird extra parts for Guard tanks, like the Minesweeper.
Yes.
Instead of a dozer blade, you'd have a Minesweeper.
And all the different turrets. There was like 25 different turrets that all basically do the same thing.
And I just want like all my Imperial Guard tanks to be really like different. I want them all to have little quirks and and you're like, this one is a medic one and Chimera, and then this is the Minesweeper Lehman Russ, and this is obviously the one that goes first in the convoy, and you're like, it's what makes sense. And now all those parts are gone because obviously no one ever really bought them.
And they were massive for 6 weeks, and now you don't need them anymore because you can kind of just mod the new turrets because there's so many options on them, right?
Yeah.
But this guy, they also do a Blender challenge. I think it's once a month, maybe, where he sets what appears to be a very easy challenge, like how to do a shoulder pad, and then he explains the challenge in a couple of minutes, and then spends about 25 minutes showing you how you should have done it.
Yeah,
because it's the same as the wood burning thing. It's like you think you know how to do it, but someone comes in and goes, well, if you actually just do XYZ, you'll do ABC instead.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Yeah, and it's that thing, like if you are somebody who's good at like Microsoft Office and stuff, you can kind of utilize the full breadth of tools available in a program like that, which I'm just not that person.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure you now, after watching your videos for the last while, are now more competent at using that machine than I am now.
Maybe.
So it's just, putting it in the hands of the correct kind of person is
I think the real trick to that kind of, it's like everything. The issue I have with 3D printing is it's such a waste of time and resources when you make a mistake. If you make a mistake on this laser etch thing, you're literally just, like a quid's worth of wood and 20 minutes?
Yep.
Which means you can, yes, it's a waste of time, but it's nowhere near an overnight print and then something's gone wrong and something stupid's gone wrong. There wasn't enough, resin in your well or chamber or whatever. Look at me knowing some words that are loosely connected.
Yes, you're getting there, buddy.
Yeah. I'll put a link to the Artisans of All in the show notes for this one because I do think people should look at it. It's absolutely mental what you can do with 3D printing.
I'd honestly, like, the first time I realized how useless a 3D printer is for anyone who isn't in the hobby is a guy on YouTube who was 3D printing a scanned model of his entire body. He was just making himself like 6 foot tall, the whole thing. And I was just like, why? Why are you doing this? And what are you going to do with it afterwards? Like, you're going to have this monstrosity in your house forever. And if you throw it out, someone's going to find a big statue of you somewhere. Like, it's so weird. Thank you guys so much for listening to the latest podcast. We have one more podcast due before we break for Christmas, so stick around and enjoy that.